Hello everybody, welcome into the studio. I'm Andy. Today we're going to set up your Nektar pacer to do like looping and stuff and control things. And not only Ableton, we're going to use Ableton here, but this stuff applies to basically anything. So as I go through this, it's going to come out how I use this to control Ableton for live looping and produce looping. And afterwards, like kind of after we get through the basics and nitty gritty, I'll probably explain a little more depth and detail, how and why I'm doing a lot of the things I'm doing. But so you've got a Nektar pacer, you want to get it set up. 10 minutes from now, you follow these steps, you'll have it set up. So I would say the first thing not to get muddled up in is the other tutorials on YouTube about setting up this device. You don't need to hook it to like your computer and send patches to it. That it all gets very confusing. It takes a lot of time. So basically it's simple stuff that we're doing, so we're pressing a button and that button is sending some type of data to Ableton, and Ableton is listening for that data, and Ableton hears it and goes, oh, this data just came in. Let me see if I have a record for that. Yep, I do. I'm going to run whatever this thing tells me to do because that happened. And that's how the MIDI thing works. It's all it is. It's the same thing if it's your keyboard. When you press the button, it sends the note, it hits the thing, bing, you hear the sound. So what we're going to be doing is specifically programming. We're going to tell this device what we want it to send. And then we're going to learn that command in Ableton, and boom, that's all. So let's look at this device. This is what you've got. You're like, what do I do with it? Okay, the top row of the buttons, pretty much out of the box. You don't even have to worry about like, did I get that preset download thing from Nektar? Because I know they have a bunch of DAWs listed, and it's very appealing to get that thing. I don't think I even did that. The controls that are on here, that are the basic ones, those are what's called MMC controls, and they kind of work with everything. And so let's look at this layout. Basically, what you have usable on this device is the bottom row. The top row, these two get you through. You can't really see on the video, but this is a white down arrow, a white up arrow, and those go up and down through your presets. As you can see over here, preset A1, A2, they do the banks by letters, B, C, and so there was a bunch. It comes stacked with a bunch of preset things in there, and so you can rename those and you can reprogram them, and that's what I've done. Harp 1 is mine, and these loop presets are mine. Those are ones that I messed with and renamed. So that's those. These are kind of what they look like. This one says preset, this one says track, and this one has stop, play, and record icons. So preset, that's what we'll use 99.9% of the time. That's what lets us have these 6 buttons available to us for anything we want. Track makes these like, part of your DAW. Solo, mute, record arm, click, patch down, patch up. I don't know what that's for, man. I find that not useful. I guess if you're tracking and recording, but that stuff didn't link up to the controls that I would expect them to in Ableton. So like, I don't know. And I don't know how to program them or learn them. They're like built-in machine code or something. So whatever. It's not useful anyways. The next one, this play pause, this is kind of useful because occasionally, I like to just like mess around with the way a song like starts when I get to the end of it, I'll do like that's the play control, stop. That's obviously handy, but again, you got to toggle into this from where you are to get to those controls. So that's cumbersome, and that's why it never gets used. So anyways, preset, that's where we are. How do you get these things to do what you want them to do? So basically, you want to do some looping. So we'll start right there. I'm going to go to my loop patch. So what we have right here is we have a patch of MIDI controls, 6 of them, 6 switches. And every time I press one, something's going to happen, right? That was my bad. I just kicked it off recording. So, and the way the system works is that, once this is set up, you'll press a button one time to get like that. So say we have a piano, an acoustic guitar, a bass, and drums, like across these 4 buttons. and you're like, okay, I want to do some bass guitar now. Then you press the bass guitar one, and that selects it. When you press it again, that starts the loop recording, and when you press it a third time, that stops the loop. And then it's playing, and it cycles on itself. And when you're ready to do the other, you're like, okay, drums now. I press this once, and I'm using the drums again, and I'm recording the drums, and again, and I'm stopping that loop. And so that's the process. First thing we'll do is program off 6 of these buttons. And so in my case, they're already programmed, but I'll show you how to do one, and we'll move through. So the first one, what it's doing is sending a note, a MIDI note, note 052, note 54, note 55, note 57, note 59, and note 79. So those notes, and what we have available to us note-wise are notes 0 through 0127, I believe. So that's the first one. You're like, okay, cool. When I press on that and my patch 2 on my pacer doesn't look at, I don't know what it's doing. It's sending some other stuff. Doesn't matter. It's totally fine. Whatever it's doing, we're going to change it, right? So, and then you can also, like I said, even change the name of the patch, of course. All of this is referenced in the pacer manual, but it's confusing as hell. And just follow my steps. Like, eventually you'll start to get the hang of it, but it's not you. It's the device. One of the worst programming I've seen in a device ever. But it totally works. You'll still get the job done. It just is weird. And so, what we're going to do, first we press the button that we want to manipulate. Then we're going to spin this dial, right? So I spin it. And it remembers where it was usually. So in my case, it was like over here on save the last time, but by default, it'll be like there. So you'll press a button, then spin this dial 1 click, and you start to see its options. Another click, Control 5-1. You're looking at the -1, and we know we pressed that first button or whatever. So cool. We hit again, switch 1. Yep, that's the one I want to work with. So now I'm going to spin again until I get to the type. Type, I want this to be a note, absolutely. It might be on something else. It might be on CC toggle by default, the first one in the list. These are your CC options. So you've got every type of MIDI control that you can send is available to you here. But we'll do note because we can then set from one of these many 127 note choices that we have. And so I'll click that, switch 1. Yup, that's the one. I clicked back. Set the type. It was already set. So I set it. It's good to go. And then we go to the note itself. 52. I've already set it, so that's cool. I hit it, and I'm like back again. So by pressing it, that takes me back. And I want to manually force it to go back. So I scroll to the right, press back. Now I'm back on this menu. Scroll 1 to the right, save, store, A2. Yep, that's the one. Boom, so we're done. If I want to rename that, which I don't need to, but I think you do, save, and it says store right there. Scroll 1 more to the right, click on name, and see you can go now through your letters. Up here on the top left, this is blinking red, and this is always back. You can always go back to where you came from, like that. So that's how we set up these notes. We go through. You want to see it once more? We'll go here and pretend we did all these, and we're like, okay, we got one more to go. What are we gonna do? Click it. Then we're gonna scroll once to the right. Nope. We're looking for that. And notice that it says Control-6, 5-6. So like, yep, that's the one. Press it once. It should be blinking. Yep. Switch 6. Now we want to find the type. Set it to note. Yep, it's on it already. Awesome. Then we're going to go to the note. Set it to 79. Awesome. Click. Now we're going to scroll over to all the way to the right for back. 1 time to the right. Save, save, save. And it's set. So now we have these buttons. We can check them. Watch the display when I click the first one. Note 52, note 54, note 55, note 57, note 59, note 79. So we know this whole set is good to go. Let's go to Ableton. Fire up here to Ableton. This isn't supposed to be now. Might be easier if all of that stuff was gone. But, so we go up here, and now we're ready. Basically, all we're going to do is put it into MIDI learn mode. which you can do by clicking right like there, up here, or you can do Control M or Apple M or whatever it is on your system. And there you have, you see everything turns blue, and now we've got all these little blue boxed note value kind of indicators. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. So all you really have to do is make sure as you go through your preset patches that you program, you just don't want to repeat numbers. So you don't want to have two switches with the same note number, because obviously that's going to confuse things. But so while these are already set, we can pretend like they're not. I will hit delete, click, delete, click, delete, click, delete, click, delete, click, delete, click, delete. So we're going to program this first group of cells, which corresponds with these 4 or 6 buttons right here on my first note thing. So we'll go, cool. How do we do this? Up in Ableton, we're in MIDI learn mode. We simply click on the cell. Then we simply press the button. And up in the cell, you see, oh, look, magic. Now it has a thing. You click on the cell, press the next button. Oh, look, there it is. Click on that thing, press the next button, click on that thing, press the next button, and so on, all the way over through all 6 buttons. We're done. So, turn MIDI mode off, and you can see track 6, the bass, is selected. If I use my feet, and I go over here to track 1, and I press it, what will happen is, watch, piano will get selected. Boom, piano is now selected. If I now again press once more, press, now we are recording. If I press again, we have stopped and we are now looping. And it is that simple. And again, we don't need that to be in there. And so for my setup, you can see basically, I mean, that's the show. I mean, as far as it goes, you can control, I control other things. Any control that shows up when you turn this learn overlay on, any control that shows up in there, you can map it to a hardware MIDI controller out in your physical world. And I highly recommend doing that. Every control you can think of have maps. So let me tell you what I have mapped out. So with the Pacer, I have 7 banks. The first one's called Harp 1. This is my main control bank. And so what this gives me is 3 controls for my guitar, which I do channel select between, like heavy gain and clean or whatever. This one is a delay pedal on and off. This one is the octaver on and off. Those 3 I use a lot. Also, I have another control up here. This Akai LPD8 has a knob on it which does my delay level for that pedal and also my reverb pedal level in there, as well as doing some other things, turning mics on and off and turning instruments on and off kind of at a quick finger. It's much faster and easier to do that when you're doing like live performances on, say, a stream. So where were we? My first one is that. Now these 2 buttons are special. I put these 2 buttons let's go back over here. I put these 2 buttons right here under the built-in arrows. Again, it's blown out on the video some, but this is a white down arrow, a triangle pointing down, a triangle pointing up. So those are always there as reference for me because I will absolutely forget which button does down and which one does up. So this one's down under the down arrow. This one's up under the up arrow. So when I press this one, it's going to go up through scenes in Ableton. And when I press this one, it's going to go down through scenes in Ableton. What's scenes in Ableton? Look over here, and in spreadsheet land, our columns are our instruments and our rows are our scenes. So when I press the down, that's what happens. When I press the up, that's what happens. What am I pressing? Down, up. Down, up. Simple enough, right? I learned those controls show up on the master channel once you enable the MIDI learn parameter, go into MIDI learn mode. Then you have extra things show up, and 2 of those extra things are a little up and down arrow, which are underneath these 7s right here, which is the controller number. You're not seeing the whole thing, you're seeing like the first digit. those are, rest assured, those two buttons. If you click on it and then click your button, it will learn to that. You can learn those buttons to anything, not just your pacer. Any MIDI control, can learn any of these buttons. It's the beauty of Ableton. Ableton does it really well. So up and down with those guys, and then for me, once I get it to where I want it to go, and now I'm ready to trigger that row, I have this little M Audio switch, relay switch, and that is my trigger. Volume's all the way down, so you're not going to hear anything. That is my trigger. Like, yeah, we don't hear anything at all. My bad. And so that control is learned. Let's turn on the MIDI learn overlay. That control is control number 43. So you can see it is learned to this play button that's on every channel. So pretty much every channel is going to get kicked off when I hit this thing. Down, trigger. Up, trigger. Or shut it off, trigger. And often I'll just use a blank scene to shut it off smoothly. And so that's how I work mine. So you've got those buttons for your amp, those three. Then you got the two for up and down, getting through scenes in Ableton. And when I'm doing like a performance of stuff that's looped in and ready to go, once I get to doing the song part, those two buttons are primarily used. Those two, and then the trigger to get me to a new section or back to a section. And this last button is simply when you press it and hold it, it turns on delay and chorus. It's just performance stuff. Then in addition to that goes along with that control, this knob right here on the LPDE gives me reverb amount, and it also gives me reverb size, the knob next to it. So now we have a small reverb, now we have a large reverb. And all these little controls just, help to make your live performance or stream smoother, better, a little more pro. So that's the first bank. Then we get to my looping banks. So I named these loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I chose to set up my looping stuff in sets of 3. We have 3 buttons for this, or 6 buttons for this thing across each patch. So we'll have 6 in loop 1, 6 more in loop 2, 6 more in loop 3, etc. So loop 1, if you look in my Ableton, I've even color-coded this stuff. So I've just grouped stuff up in sets of 6 to correspond to the pedals. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. Then the next set, you go up to loop 2, and now these 6 buttons here correspond to the pink channels over here. So if I start clicking them, the first one, look what's selected. I click the fourth one, look what's selected, etc. That's a microphone channel. That's why a little delay just popped on. So same thing applies. It goes all the way up through loop 3, loop 4, loop 5, loop 6. And the way that's mapped out in my Ableton, it's basically 3 sets of stuff with 2 scenes. So first set is 1, second set is 2, third set is loop 3, referring to the patches down on the pacer. Patch called loop 4 restarts over here for the first set of instruments, but on set 2, scene 2. Then we got scene 2 of the pinks is 5, scene 2 of the yellows, whatever that is 6. Simple enough. If you wanted to keep going, you could just keep going. So that is that's how I have it set up. That's how my pacer works for me. And I think we got to the guts of that rather fast, I hope. That wasn't too annoying. But like I said, if you have, this thing is really hard to program. It's a beast. So if you have problems, it's probably not you. Just stick with it. You'll figure it out. Go back, follow my steps on setting up the patches, and you'll see you've got your stuff worked out. Good to go. Easy peasy, right? No problem. So the last thing, I don't remember if I showed you how to change, I think I did, but if you want to change the name, that menu is right next to, hit save, it's right next to store. Hit name, and then you can see it's blinking and stuff. Hit your back control to get out of there, and you're back where you want to be. So, that's the show, folks. Hope you learned something. Cheers. Later.